The ground trembles with each heavy footfall, dust spiraling into the hot, dry air as two colossal forms close in across the prehistoric plain. And in the very next instant, a single charge could decide the survival of both creatures. There is no music score, no cinematic camera angle, only raw survival instinct, where every step forward carries the risk of shattered bones, torn flesh, or slow starvation if the attempt fails. You may be familiar with prehistoric confrontations portrayed as legends on the screen. Yet few realize that encounters like these did not exist solely in imagination. Broken teeth embedded in bone, healed wounds preserved in fossils, and impact marks etched into stone are evidence of real battles that unfolded tens of millions of years ago. And now, together, we turn back time to recreate the most dramatic encounters ever to take place on Earth. From the life or death standoff between Tyrannosaurus rex and Triceratops, to the deep ocean hunts of Megalodon against ancient whales, where every approach is a gamble for survival with no margin for error. To reconstruct these prehistoric encounters as real-world battles, science does not rely on imagination or cinematic scripts, but on concrete traces preserved in fossils for tens of millions of years. Deep tooth marks driven into bone, sharp cut lines across fossil surfaces, and fractured bones that later healed over time are silent records of confrontations that once played out in nature. When a wound shows signs of bone healing, it means the individual survived the encounter long enough for recovery, confirming that this was not a bite from a corpse, but the result of an attack or defense while alive. In contrast, tooth marks on bone with no signs of healing often reflect killing blows or scavenging behavior after death, helping scientists distinguish active predation from opportunistic feeding. Beyond bone damage, fossilized footprints left in ancient ground reveal that many species once moved in herds or pursued prey in groups, creating spatial contexts for prolonged encounters rather than a single strike. Fragments of broken teeth lodged in the bones of prey, or even in the bones of the predator itself, provide direct evidence of the violent intensity of these clashes, where both sides face the risk of severe injury. To avoid subjective interpretation, paleontologists compare these traces with the behavior of modern predators, such as how lions, crocodiles, or sharks leave characteristic bite marks when hunting or competing for food. When multiple lines of evidence converge on a plausible scenario, reconstructing a prehistoric battle is no longer fiction, but a scientific effort to understand how ancient animals interacted, confronted one another, and paid the price for every step into a fight for survival. From those same unforgiving traces, the story of the most symbolic confrontation of prehistory slowly emerges, where the largest land predator faces one of the most formidable living fortresses of its time. On the plains of the late Cretaceous, an adult Triceratops, standing about 9 to 10 feet at the shoulder, measuring 26 to 30 feet in length, and weighing from 13,000 to over 26,000 pounds, moves slowly through low vegetation. At the forest edge, an adult Tyrannosaurus rex, standing about 12 to 13 feet at the hip, stretching 40 to 43 feet long and weighing from 13,000 to over 19,000 pounds, stands motionless in the shade, silently observing its potential prey. The predator does not rush in, because a hasty attack on an individual armed with horns and a bony shield is an extremely risky choice. It moves along a wide arc, keeping just enough distance to assess the stance and the direction of its opponent's head. Its advantage in height allows it to clearly see vulnerabilities along the flank and the side of the neck, areas not fully protected by the massive bony frill. These weaknesses exist only for moments, because the instant Triceratops turns its body, its 3 long horns transform the space ahead into a deadly zone. Every step forward by the predator carries the risk of being gored in the leg or lower body, injuries that could strip it of the ability to move effectively. In a decisive moment, Tyrannosaurus rex may attempt a rapid lunge toward the opponent's flank, driving its jaws toward the thick muscles of the shoulder and ribs. A successful bite could cause severe blood loss, but it also forces the predator deep into the counterattack range of the horns. If Triceratops manages to lower its head and swing its body sideways in time, the counterstrike can unfold in an instant, powerful enough to inflict serious injuries to the attacker's legs or abdomen. Triceratops skulls bearing tooth marks show that such encounters did occur in reality, and the fact that some wounds healed confirms that not every attack ended in immediate death. On the other side, Tyrannosaurus rex fossils that carry signs of injury reflect the very real cost paid by a predator when gambling against prey equipped with formidable defensive weapons. Even if the encounter ends with Triceratops forcing a retreat, a single wound to the leg or torso can leave the predator without the strength needed to hunt effectively for many days. In an environment where every meal must be earned through risk, a small mistake in such a confrontation can become the first link in a chain of failures that ends in death by starvation. After a tense confrontation in which a predator must gamble with every step against dense layers of defense, the picture of prehistoric encounters opens into another setting where speed and boldness collide with a counter-weapon that seems primitive yet carries immense force. In the forests and plains of the late Jurassic, an adult Stegosaurus, measuring about 23 to 30 feet in length and weighing from 6,800 to 11,000 pounds, moves slowly through low vegetation, its back lined with 2 rows of large bony plates that make it both cumbersome and highly conspicuous. Not far away, an adult Allosaurus, measuring about 28 to 39 feet long and weighing from 3,300 to over 4,400 pounds, watches its opponent in silence, its leaner build and long legs giving it an advantage in speed when closing in or pulling back. Unlike heavier predators, Allosaurus often relies on agility to seek attack opportunities from less protected angles, where the neck and flanks of Stegosaurus are more exposed than the front. However, approaching from behind does not guarantee safety, because the tail of Stegosaurus carries 4 sharp spikes, always ready to swing along a wide arc when danger is sensed. Every step closer forces the predator to judge its distance carefully, because advancing just 1 step too far can place it directly within the reach of the spiked tail. In the moment, Allosaurus attempts to close in on the flank to drive a bite into thick muscle. Stegosaurus can pivot its rear body and bring its most dangerous weapon toward the attacker. A well-aimed tail strike has the power to break a leg bone or severely damage the ribs of the predator, enough to end the attack within seconds. Allosaurus fossils have been discovered bearing evidence of severe bone injuries, including wounds consistent with impacts from the spiked tail of Stegosaurus, showing that such encounters were not confined to theory. These traces reflect a reality in which the defensive weapons of Stegosaurus were not merely threatening, but capable of inflicting injuries serious enough to impair the hunting ability of its attacker. Even if Allosaurus withdraws in time, a single leg injury can cost it its speed advantage, which is almost equivalent to losing the ability to hunt effectively for a long period. For Stegosaurus, every forced tail swing in self-defense also consumes significant energy and exposes its position, a signal that can attract additional predators in the area. The encounter between these two species is therefore not a one-sided display of strength, but a sequence of high-risk decisions where the predator must weigh hunger against the danger of severe injury, while the prey pays in exhaustion and personal safety to secure another chance at survival. Leaving behind the warm forests of the Jurassic and entering the frozen setting of the Ice Age, the rhythm of survival encounters changes dramatically as cold, deep snow and scarce food make every decision to attack far heavier. On ice-covered plains, an adult woolly mammoth standing about 10 to 11 feet at the shoulder and weighing from 8,800 to over 13,000 pounds moves slowly in search of patches of dry grass exposed beneath thin snow. Around it are other members of the herd, forming a loose protective ring that is enough to make any solitary predator hesitate. At the edge of the area, an adult Smilodon weighing about 350 to 620 pounds lies pressed into the dry grass, its powerfully built body and heavily developed forelimbs ready to pin prey at close range. The vast difference in size makes a direct attack almost impossible, because a single charge from the mammoth's curved tusks could send the predator flying and end any pursuit. As a result, Smilodon tends to observe the movements of the entire herd for extended periods, waiting for a moment when the protective formation shows a gap. When the herd moves across uneven ground or slick ice, young, weakened, or exhausted individuals can be pushed to the edge of the formation for brief moments. That fleeting instant opens the only opportunity for the predator to approach without confronting the full strength of the herd. If it chooses to commit, Smilodon may target the neck or softer flank of its victim, attempting to drive its long canines deep to inflict rapid and severe damage. However, the long, slender structure of these saber teeth cannot withstand heavy impact, forcing the predator to strike with extreme precision while avoiding direct counterblows. In a moment of struggle, if the woolly mammoth turns in time, a sweep of its tusks or a stomp from its massive feet can inflict devastating injuries on the attacker. Smilodon fossils carry numerous healed fractures, reflecting how frequently this species was injured while hunting prey many times larger than its own body. Such injuries cause not only immediate pain, but also long-term reductions in hunting ability, forcing Smilodon to rely on assistance from other group members or face the risk of starvation. Even when a mammoth falls, approaching the carcass remains dangerous because the remaining herd members may return to defend their fallen kin or drive predators away from the food source. In the harsh reality of the Ice Age, every decision to confront a giant like the woolly mammoth is not merely about the next meal, but a survival choice in which the predator must trade enormous energy gain against the risk of being removed from nature's cycle. After terrestrial encounters, where every movement is constrained by terrain and gravity, the stage of prehistoric conflict shifts into a completely different world, where space expands into 3 dimensions and any mistake can send a predator or prey sinking into silence. In the prehistoric ocean, an adult Megalodon may reach lengths of about 50 to over 60 feet and weigh an estimated 100,000 to over 140,000 pounds. Drifting silently through deep blue water, its massive body moving smoothly with minimal sound. In the upper layers near the sea surface, ancient whales measuring about 20 to 30 feet in length and weighing up to tens of thousands of pounds move in small groups, foraging while remaining alert to shifting shadows below. Unlike hunts on land, where a predator must approach from a relatively fixed direction, the ocean allows Megalodon to choose multiple angles of attack, from below, from behind, or from the flank, where a prey's ability to respond is limited by the aquatic environment. A commonly inferred strategy of Megalodon is to target the fins and tail of whales, critical structures for movement and escape in water. A single bite to the tail fluke can strip a whale of stable swimming ability, turning a normally agile animal into a slow-moving target in vast open water. After this crippling first strike, Megalodon can maintain a safe distance, waiting for the prey to weaken from blood loss or exhaustion before closing in again. This approach minimizes risk for the predator, because rushing into a direct bite on the main body of a large whale could expose its jaws to strong resistance and a high chance of injury. Whalebone fossils bearing massive tooth marks with shapes characteristic of Megalodon show that attacks on fins and body did occur, with many bites concentrated on positions of clear tactical importance. Some fossils even reveal healed wounds, indicating that certain whales survived an initial attack and continued to live in an environment filled with danger. However, not every encounter ends with escape, because a single bite to softer tissue near the chest or abdomen can lead to rapid blood loss and swift exhaustion. Even for a predator as enormous as Megalodon, each approach toward large prey carries risk, as whales can respond by turning suddenly or colliding with force, generating powerful impacts in the water. In the vast openness of the ocean, Megalodon's hunt is rarely a swift execution, but more often a prolonged sequence of advances, withdrawals, and disabling strikes, where patience and strategy matter as much as raw power. Encounters between Megalodon and ancient whales are therefore not simply images of an ocean ruler striking its prey, but extended contests in an environment that allows no margin for error. For a single moment of lost control can be enough to send either hunter or hunted fading into the depths. When these four prehistoric encounters are placed side by side, a fundamental rule of survival becomes clear. There are no truly one-sided battles in nature. Even as apex predators at the top of the food chain, each species enters confrontation with very real risk, where a small mistake can completely reverse the outcome. In the encounter between Tyrannosaurus rex and Triceratops, the predator's advantage in size and bite force is balanced by the prey's heavy defenses and its ability to counterattack head-on. Every close approach is not only an attempt to hunt, but a survival test in which the hunter can become the injured party if the timing is wrong. In the clash between Allosaurus and Stegosaurus, the predator's agility is met by a defensive weapon capable of inflicting severe injury with a single, well-placed swing. A tail strike does not need perfect accuracy to shift the balance of power, because even one leg injury can strip Allosaurus of its speed advantage in future hunts. The encounter between Smilodon and the woolly mammoth shows that size disparity does not prevent a predator from approaching, but it does force the hunter to accept far greater risk. Healed fractures found on Smilodon fossils reveal that hunting gigantic prey brought not only massive energy rewards, but also the real possibility of being removed from the hunt for long periods due to injury. In the prehistoric ocean, the confrontation between Megalodon and ancient whales follows the same rule in a different form. Despite overwhelming size and power, the predator must rely on distant crippling tactics, because charging directly at large prey in water can result in dangerous collisions for itself. The common thread across all four encounters is that predators rarely face ideal targets, instead accepting imperfect conditions where prey can fight back or escape. Every decision to advance carries the risk of injury, and in the prehistoric world, even a non-fatal wound could become a slow sentence. A predator injured in the leg may lose the ability to chase for many days, while a strong impact to the jaws can prevent it from biting and tearing prey effectively. These limitations turn prehistoric battles into chains of careful choices, where raw strength is never the sole deciding factor. Success in hunting, therefore, comes not only from being stronger, but from judging risk, choosing the right moment, and being willing to withdraw when the cost becomes too high. Encounters between prehistoric creatures have always held a powerful fascination for humans, not only because of their immense scale, but because of the primal sense of danger they awaken. When watching two colossal animals collide, people are easily drawn into the drama of the moment, where everything seems decided within a few brief seconds. The element of direct confrontation touches ancient human instincts, where observing a struggle helps us recognize danger and anticipate the outcome of conflict. Cinema and modern entertainment amplify this feeling by accelerating the pace, using rapid cuts, and emphasizing violent attacks. This portrayal makes prehistoric encounters resemble duels, even though in natural reality, most confrontations were far more cautious and prolonged. The contrast between cinematic imagery and scientific evidence only deepens audience curiosity, because everyone wants to know what truly happened in the real world. Beyond entertainment, prehistoric battles also represent a world where humans hold no control, where power and survival are governed by harsh natural laws. Watching giant creatures confront one another allows people to step briefly outside the safety of the modern world and face their own fragility before forces beyond control. It is this blend of fear and curiosity that gives stories of prehistoric encounters their lasting appeal, even after being retold across countless generations. Prehistoric encounters are not merely moments of violence preserved in human imagination, but the outcomes of survival choices made in a harsh world where every advance could cost injury or death. When we look back at the marks etched into fossils, we see not only fierce predators, but caution, hesitation, and very real survival calculations made by creatures that once walked the earth. These battles remind us that in nature, strength is never the only factor deciding survival, because even the powerful can become victims after a single brief mistake. If these stories of life and death encounters have led you to view the prehistoric world from a different perspective, it is hoped you will continue along the journey to explore the scientific mysteries still hidden within stone and earth. Thank you for staying through the final lines, and if you wish to continue into dramatic yet scientifically grounded stories of the prehistoric world, do not forget to follow and subscribe so you do not miss the next episodes.